Well, welcome back, everybody. Today we're in Chapter 12, which deals with employee involvement, or what we call EI. And as you're going to see, companies have made a lot of strides towards involving the employee, mainly because they're having to, with the way that our world is today, with globalization, technology, and diversity. Companies are needing to have as many options and available information as they can get. Where else and who better than the employee to go get that information? So today we're taking a look at kind of the evolution of employee involvement, but especially looking at it from where we are today with it. Well, welcome back, everybody, and today we're in Chapter 12, which involves employee involvement. And this is the key, folks, for the organizations of today: getting the employees engaged, involved, committed to the organization and its purpose and its goals. Without that, it's going to be very hard for you to compete in the global market that we're in now. So let's talk a little bit about employee involvement, or EI, as the authors of the textbook indicate. Now, just to give you an overview, employee involvement, it seeks to increase members' input into decisions that affect organization performance and employee well-being. And if you remember, this wasn't the case historically. In the past, the employers didn't care about the employees' input. They had the idea and the philosophy that they were the ones who were best knowledgeable because of their position or attributes to be able to make decisions for the company, and it was up to the employee just to follow those rules instead of engaging the processes and products and so forth for the organization. Now, employee involvement, EI, is the broad term for diverse approaches to gain greater participation in relevant workplace decisions. Just as there was very little interest in the employee or EI in the past, today there's been a complete turnaround in our attitude towards EI. Today we are trying to solicit the input and expertise of the employee at every level of the organizational strata. Now, here's some definitions that involve EI. First of all, power, and that's the extent to which influence and authority are pushed down into the organization. And if you remember, we talked previously about flattening the organization. Flattening the organization is where you take out much of the middle management influence in the organization, and you rest authority and decision making with the lower strata. And you broaden the scope of middle managers to not just look at perhaps managing one single department, but multiple departments. So that's the power that's been given to, in many organizations, to the workers. Information is the extent to which relevant information is shared with members. One of the keys to effective leadership, and if you take that course, you'll learn that from me, is information, being transparent. Again, the Johari window was a prime example of how not sharing information can be destructive. It can be fatal to your management or OD profession. What you don't know can hurt you as well. So information is relative. Knowledge and skills. That's the extent to which members have relevant skills and knowledge and opportunities to gain them. And in a learning organization, this is what you want to be able to facilitate, to bring about, to develop them, more than just giving them the basics of the job itself, but being able to mentor them, to develop them, and to higher levels of responsibility. Rewards. That's the extent to which opportunities for internal and external rewards are tied to effectiveness. Do you have a reward system? Is there a way of encouraging people, both tangibly and intangibly, through intrinsic and extrinsic rewards, to let them know, hey, we appreciate, we value your input, we value your performance. So some of these definitions are basic to being able to bring about a robust EI environment. Now, here's a diagram of just how it works. Employee involvement intervention will improve communication and coordination, motivation, improve capabilities, and as a result, you have improved productivity. But just as that will improve productivity, the lack of those three, communication, coordination, and improved motivation and improved capabilities, will decrease the less EI there is in the organization. And folks, I've talked to many of my students in graduate school who are professionals who will tell you the same thing. Many organizations today are fragmented. There's not a lot of camaraderie. There's not a lot of commitment in the organizations today because they don't feel like they're a part of anything. I've asked many students who work for major organizations who you would think would have everything going right for them. Do you know where you fit in the organization? And they would tell me, no. There's very little communication that takes place other than this is what they want me to do. And they've taken the attitude, okay, I'll do exactly what I'm told, and that's it. Because they haven't been encouraged to think outside the box or to think outside their realm of responsibility. And guys, that's the old way of doing business, where the autocrat would say, just do what I tell you to do, period. So even some of the major organizations today who you would think would have everything going for them, they still struggle with that involvement of communication and so forth. So this is how EI can affect productivity. And then there's secondary effects. Here at the bottom left, you see employee involvement intervention, which leads to productivity, which leads to employee well-being and satisfaction from both the employment involvement and the productivity. And then from well-being and satisfaction, we see attraction and retention. I mean, if the people are happy where they're at, chances are they're going to stay. I have rarely heard of a person working for an organization where they loved the environment, the people, they believed in the company, and the company was treating them right. Very few people want to leave that. Now, there is a model in strategic management that discusses how easy it is or how difficult it is for a person to leave a company. There are several factors that a person has to take into consideration before they will leave an organization. And one of those is, what do I have to lose if I do leave this organization? And oftentimes that alone will keep a person in that organization. Now, some say the pay, and that's a big factor, but I've seen people leave a company and go to another company with less pay, but the environment is more accepting and they feel more of a belongingness at that new company than the old company that they left, even if they had to sacrifice some monetary rewards for it. And then all of this stuff leads to productivity, and productivity is the key, folks. This is what we're getting paid to do. Whether you're the CEO or you're a manager or you're an OD practitioner, productivity is the end result of what we want to accomplish in that organization. Without it, we're out of business. So that has to be the overarching goal of all of this. Now, employee involvement interventions. And you take a look here at several different environments and models, and you stack them up against each other on those dimensions that we defined earlier: power, information, knowledge, skills, rewards. The parallel structures, which they talk about employee resource groups. These are groups that can meet outside the organization to develop plans and all of that. Union management, cooperation. These parallel structures can produce low power. That means not a lot of power is given down. The unions will take over oftentimes and dictate what the employee will do and not do as it negotiates with management. Information may not be as flowing, as abundant as these other models. Knowledge and skills, moderate. Rewards are low. It's what you negotiate with the unions. But look here at the others. Total quality management, Six Sigma, continuous improvement, everything is high. Power is high. You have to have that. Information, knowledge, skills, rewards are high because there are high demands placed on these individuals. But they don't crack under the pressure. And once they know that you depend on them and you've invested your time and resources in them, they tend to perform quite well. High involvement organizations, these are the learning organizations that we've talked about, where you're developing people, you're facilitating and equipping them. All of the dimensions that you see here are high. Now let's go back to total quality management, TQM. This is a guy named Deming who came up with this, and it's a comprehensive approach to EI. And here, this is probably one of the first examples of learning organization principles that we see. And I don't know if I explained to you in previous weeks how much Deming had an influence on the Japanese. We ran him out of America because post-World War II, he started to come up into the field of business research and management models. And he proposed the idea that the workers should have say. They should be given authority and be empowered. And we just laughed him out of America. He went to Japan, who was trying to get back on their feet from the war. They were demoralized. They were pretty much having to start over from scratch. And Deming taught them the TQM way. And today they have still used him. They look at him like he's the greatest thing that ever lived when it comes to business. But they embraced his philosophy and his principles, and this is why you see a lot of products being made in Japan that are superior than anything else in the world. But they have come to, like I say, embrace him, and today we know him as business excellence, continuous process improvement, continuous quality, lean manufacturing, Six Sigma. These are all of the consequences or results of total quality management that are being incorporated into businesses today. And unfortunately, Americans are just catching up to him, whereas the Japanese have had 4 or 5 decades of a head start on him. Now, here are some of the guidelines that Deming posits. Create a constancy of purpose. Don't let that change. Oftentimes, companies get in trouble just because they change who they are or their purpose. Adopt a new philosophy. End lowest cost purchasing practices. Institute leadership. Eliminate empty slogans. Eliminate numerical quotas. Institute on-the-job training, retrain vigorously, drive out fear, break down barriers, take action to accomplish transformation, improve processes constantly, cease dependence on mass inspection, and remove barriers to pride in workmanship. So it's all about the ability to change, to eliminate the old do as I say, not as I do, but what I tell you to do, getting rid of all of that. Also, drive out fear. Now, that's one of the things about empowerment that we haven't learned. Now, we tell people we're empowering you to do a good job. We're going to empower you and we're going to put our trust in you, but don't fail. That puts a lot of pressure on a person. Now, we have a succeed at all costs mentality here in the West. But in a Deming world, failure is not necessarily a bad thing. Failure just shows you what you don't want to do next time. But the thing about fear is that once it's removed, you're going to be bold. You're going to take chances. You're not going to worry, oh my goodness, if this doesn't work, I've lost my job, which is kind of the way that we operate today in business here in the West. But if we allowed the worker to fail, to make mistakes without any repercussions, we just learn from it and go on. Think about how bold and how innovative our companies will be today. We have instituted a culture of reservation and conservatism and fear. because we don't want to fail. We don't want to lose our jobs. We don't want to lose revenue. We don't want to lose market share. And because of that, many companies today are risk aversive. They won't take risks, even calculated risks a lot of times, all for the sake of just keeping things the way they are. Well, today, unfortunately, many organizations don't have that luxury of just being able to maintain the status quo. They are forced to change. Look at technology today. The way technology has forced change within individual organizations and so forth. So, I mean, today I can go to Kroger and Walmart and use technology and not even interact with people. Today I can get on my cell phone and I can do business wherever I want to go. I mean, today I'm teaching you a lesson in this chapter and I don't even see you. I'm behind a computer screen. So technology is just one way in which we are having to redefine, create new opportunities, improve processes continually. So these are some of Deming's quality guidelines that have endured and have been successful for the Japanese, and hopefully as we take them on, it'll be that way for us. Now, Deming has what he calls 7 deadly sins, and the first one is lack of constancy of purpose. If you're wiggling around, if you're wishy-washy and you're not constant, or if you're not constant in your purpose, then that can be deadly. Emphasize short-term profits and immediate dividends. This is why companies do not invest in people. They're not learning organizations. They look at short-term profits. Now, when you are developing people, that takes a long time, years. But oftentimes we will sacrifice that for the sake of short-term gains. Let's just get the job done. Let's turn a profit and just keep on the way we're going. But in the long term, we're really not equipped to maintain growth because all we're doing is just the same thing for short-term profits. So we'll sacrifice training and development for the sake of just turning a quick dollar. Evaluation of performance, merit rating, or annual review. There are some people who don't even get that where they work. And if they do, they may get it once a year. And what I ask is, so you're telling me that the company only cares about or will tell you how you're doing once a year? And they'll tell me, yeah, pretty much. So you're looking at performance, evaluating performance, correcting bad performance, and rewarding good performance. Those are critical. Mobility of top management. And that's the ability for top management to be able to evolve, to move instead of staying where they are. This is the way we've always done it mentality. Running a company only on visible figures. And oftentimes that's what we look at, the bottom line. Excessive medical costs and excessive cost of warranties. These are all deadly sins, according to Deming, that we should avoid. Now, TQM application stages, you have to gain long-term senior management commitment, and coming out of the gate, they're supportive, but when they see the investment that they're going to have to make long-term, oftentimes they shy away from it. Train members in quality methods. That's like what we talked about earlier. Six Sigma is an example. Start quality improvement projects, measure progress, and reward accomplishments. Again, you follow those same steps in whatever model that you're using. You assess, you implement, and then you provide feedback or get feedback on the efforts that you've exerted. Now, high involvement organizations, again, these are the learning organizations. They're flat and lean. They have enriched work designs. That means the work design fits the organization's purpose and mission, and they're working together. It's designed so that the people fit better, and it's smoother. Open information systems, sophisticated selection and career systems. You're hiring the right people, and you're progressing them through the organization properly. Extensive training programs, advanced reward systems, participatively designed personnel practices, and that's participative management. and conducive physical layouts. So you have the physical and you have the process, systems process to the organization. High involvement application factors. It's guided by an explicit statement of values that are strongly held and widely shared by organization members. You get them behind it. If they're behind it, if it's something they believe in, then chances are they're going to support it and be more committed. The implementation process is participative, with managers and employees taking active roles in choosing and implementing the design features. One of the things that Deming proposed and promoted was participative management instead of autocratic management. Participative management means that you're more of a coach than you are anything else. Now, when we go back to Hersey and Blanchard's situational leadership, you can't be that at the very beginning. You have to be more authoritative and directive. You don't have much of a relationship with that person other than an instructor. But once the person gains in knowledge and skills, their motivation will increase, and then you can ease up on the autocratic method and become more of a participative manager and coach. You become more of a mentor and cheerleader for them. And then as you get to the final stages, you can delegate the whole thing to them and know that it's going to be done and done correctly. So that takes the burden off of you, and you have the freedom now to go out and pursue other priorities within that organization. But you have a tight interaction with them at the first. Just watch what I do, learn the job. As they learn it, they get more motivated, and you become more interrelational with them as you encourage them and become a mentor. And then actually at the end, you can break relationships and let them go and do what they're called to do, and you can start the cycle over again with another person. But you're perpetuating development and training, and also grooming people for bigger positions of authority. Today we saw how employee involvement is very important for organizations today, from the perspective of getting them involved, empowering them, having them become more of a viable resource within the organization is a must for organizations today if they're going to succeed. We also took a look at how maybe some of the traditional approaches, such as the parallel groups, as opposed to total quality management and open groups or open organizations, can facilitate greater power, knowledge, rewards, and productivity. And that's the name of the game. That's the key to all of it. And productivity today is not going to happen unless you involve the employees. That's a hard lesson that we've learned throughout the decades, but we're coming around now. So I would make sure to keep these principles at heart, especially Deming and TQM, which we looked at today, and you will be better for it. Well, that's all we have today. Tomorrow I'm going to have you review an HBR article and write about it. But until then, you have a good day and God bless you.